All right, and then I'm gonna pass it on to Liana to introduce, well, she already introduced herself, but to give some more introduction. But I'm so grateful that Danielle could be with us today. Like she said, she was one of the co-founders of North Star um, from cohort one. We're in cohort six now. And I mean, she's been doing this cooperative work for such a long time with so much work just rooted in like Black liberation and Black joy. You will probably, hopefully, see her in multiple sessions to come, for sure for the next session in November 19th. I'm going to pass it back to Liana.
Hi, everyone. So I just want to take a moment to read Danielle's bio so we can learn a little bit more about her and her work. So Danielle Mkali has dedicated her career to building community cooperatives to create wealth building opportunities with Black people. As a senior director with Nexus Community Partners, she leads a trust fund that redistributes $50 million to the Black community in Minnesota, North and South Dakota. She has also co-founded and led the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship, connecting participants with the rich history of cooperative economics in the Black community while receiving technical skills and support for emerging cooperative business ideas. She was an organizer of a national campaign to expand low-power FM radio and helped found KRSM, a low-power FM radio station based out of the Phillips neighborhood in South Minneapolis. She chairs the Partnership in Property Commercial Land Trust Board and is a board member of the Collective Diaspora. So now I want to give a warm welcome to Danielle as she shares with us some welcoming words. Thank you, Danielle, for being here.
Thank you. Let's see here. Can I share my screen?
Let me enable that. Yeah, we'll make sure.
Okay. I'm really happy to be here. And I was going to share my screen. I'm going to share a piece of artwork that I made. Just something that I thought maybe might be interesting to your eyes as we meet together. As I was thinking about the welcome for our space, in the before times, before COVID, we would do a lot of work to kind of make the physical space feel really welcoming to folks. And it's been a little bit harder to do, different to do over Zoom. So I thought I would just start with being maybe a little bit vulnerable and share some artwork that I made. But it is definitely my joy to be here with all of you this morning and to give a warm and loving welcome to North Star. When we founded North Star 5 years ago, we wanted to create a space, an ongoing invitation for us to reclaim our Black cooperative economic lineage and to practice Black cooperative economics. Over the years, we've learned a lot about what can help to make North Star feel welcoming. Number one, that we know for sure is that our ancestors are here for North Star. So many of the most well-known Black freedom fighters and scholars have practiced and uplifted our ability to cooperate. It's not only a practical survival method, it's relational and it's cultural. I feel that the ancestors are also overjoyed at this Black space. I have right here, always, Fannie Lou Hamer, who is one of the Black ancestors that I often return to, who is definitely a cooperative economic leader. And I appreciate her so much because she always found a way to be responsive to our people's material immediate needs, and also work to cultivate a very important collective liberation vision. And I think in a leader, that's just an exceptional combination that often you only find in Black women and femmes that have led us. Not that I'm biased, but she always had food to give to people, and then she could get people involved in campaigns. Number two, you are all here. So you all are making it a welcoming space, and I appreciate that from you. When I was younger, and even now, when you visit a friend's home and there's work to be done and you're invited to help, especially if it's by somebody's mama, to cook or to participate in a chore, there's a certain way where I always felt like I really belonged then. And I'm just wondering for all of you, what are ways that you have felt welcome and like you really belonged in a new space? And I was just hoping that maybe we could take like 2 minutes for you all to just reflect, either write something down, or just think about that question about what were the spaces and places that you felt very welcomed in and belonging, and what do you think helped cultivate that for you? Okay. Would anyone be willing to share some things that came up for you? Either in the chat or just share them out loud.
I can share. Something that came up for me was food and drink, like always helping me feel grounded in the space, and especially if we're able to share like family style, that's always a way that I've felt welcomed into new places.
Thank you for that. And I'm right there with you, for sure. Tennille, I see your hand up.
Yes, this is very affirming for me because I moderate sisters, women's creative group. And this was literally a prompt that I put into the group for into that group. What are your feelings around welcome? How do you make others feel welcome? How do you feel welcome in a space or not? And so for me, it's one of the spaces I felt welcome in is the Rights Sisterhood I'm in. I participated in a women's rites of passage program recently, and that group of sisters has always been a really welcoming space for me. I always feel welcome at my mama's house, like just chilling on the couch or in the kitchen, cooking with her, my sisters, in my kids' room when I'm watching them play. I feel welcome there. They include me in their imaginations and in their play. And on the land that I share with my partner, it's one of the most welcoming spaces for me, but it's also a place where I know I can cultivate welcome. So yeah, that's for me, alhamdulillah.
Thank you for that, Neil. I love that a place that you feel welcome on that land, and part of the ways that you feel welcome is because you're able to cultivate that for others. That's really beautiful. Anyone else want to share? And feel free to put things in the chat. I see Lane shared, feel welcome to my workspace and community garden. Folks call me what I want to be called and listen when I speak. Plus hear me. It's lovely. Okay.
I think I could share too. I feel welcomed in spaces where I'm allowed to show up as I am, where I don't have to put on a facade or try to fit in a box, where I can show up as my full self, whether that be, comfortable or uncomfortable or whatever emotions I'm wrestling with, whether it's joy or grief or whatever.
That you're going to be loved, and people are going to just take you any way that you feel like showing up. That's a beautiful thing. Sarita shared that they felt welcomed at family reunions. Everyone looked like me and we spoke the same language. Seeing generations of family, I'd see where I came from and where I'm going. Woo. I like that a lot. Mujahid shared places where sincerity and hospitality are felt. I can see that too. These are really beautiful. Thank you all for sharing all of these. And I hope that we're all able to cultivate either the ability to be in these kinds of spaces where we know we belong and are welcomed, and that we can also, as Tennille shared, extend that service or that work or that intentionality with other people that we're coming around with. So the third thing about a welcoming space is that we're all here together. How well we show up for one another is important to the quality of our relationships. Cooperative economics require healthy relationships, or at least the ability or the desire or the effort to try and create healthy relationships. Our liberation requires relationships. You have to cooperate to cooperate. You can't do this alone. My hope for all of you is that the cooperative that you are creating or that you are already a part of is a site for liberation. That North Star is a fruitful practice space, that it's a place where, despite capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy's attempts to work us and isolate us out of our ability to dream and imagine, that North Star is a place to connect, reclaim, make home, try again and again, trust a little and a little more, to learn, to forgive, to love and cooperate, to work and create co-ops for Black liberation. Welcome to North Star. We are so, so, so happy to have our constellation grow.
Yes, thank you, Danielle. Definitely a beautiful and warm welcome. Um, yeah, I hope y'all feel I'll feel what I'm feeling. It was just the warmth of the space, but also just some excitement about having all of you here. All right. Now that we've had our welcome, we're going to be having our story time with Auntie Beverly at 11:15. But I just wanted to take this time in the meantime to kind of talk about our time together before we get our break in. Before I do that, were there any questions for Danielle? Anything else you wanted to hear before I move on? Honestly, if you have questions, I invite you to ask them. She's been leading the space for a very long time, and this is, I mean, I know Black Community Trust Fund is like a beautiful, emerging, growing space, but North Star holds a very special place in her heart, so, and will continue to. So, if you have anything, and also, yeah. I'm happy to connect you all with Danielle if you want to connect more and talk more and learn about the work that the Black Community Trust Fund is doing too. Or to hear more about North Star history, which is always beautiful. So for our time together from now until May, and I'm just trying to find the document here, so just a second. We'll basically be really engaging in Black cooperative economic topics. So I shared the schedule with all of you during orientation, and for folks that weren't here, I was able to mail some packages with all the material, well, the schedule and such. So North Star is based out of a book, which I normally have here, but I've been moving around between the office and here. It is based out of Collective Courage by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nemhart, who wrote the book really recollecting the deep Black cooperative history in the US, like citing things such as the Underground Railroad, mutual aid societies as spaces where Black folks could get together to cooperate. Also noting that the market, there was a market failure where this market was never built for Black folks, and so it's never benefited Black folks. And so what would they do in order to try to come together as a community to build that collective wealth? And so that's kind of how we've based, that's where North Star was born. From there was a reading group that Danielle and LaDonna, who I hope will be joining us, the other co-founder of North Star, they led some reading groups, and that's where North Star kind of grew out of. And we were able, well, I wasn't here at the time, but Danielle, along with LaDonna and a few other organizers, were able to bring Dr. Jessica Gordon Nemhart to the Twin Cities to have a moment to kind of like hear more about the book and have questions and answers. So that's kind of like the history of North Star. So here we are, 6 cohorts later, continuing to do this work, just recognizing the need for Black cooperation, whereas we're already doing this work in our own pockets on our space, but how can we bring this work more into the forefront? Recognizing all the work that you are all doing and all the work that all the participants from previous cohorts have already also doing. So yeah, that's what we draw upon. So I'm just pulling this up just to kind of talk about, just lay a foundation of like the work we'll be doing this year. Cool. All right. So this is what we'll be engaging in this year, and I always have multiple tabs open, so pardon my screen. But we'll be, so today is really our introductory space to kind of get grounded in the work, we'll have some group agreements, like I said, and just kind of like setting the space for our time together. A lot of us are either have been in relationship with each other or meeting together, so also a time to build those relationships. Like we say, like you can't do this cooperative work alone. And so hoping that you will use this time to also connect with other groups to continue to build on your cooperative vision. We'll move on the 19th. We've had this session for a while. It's always led by Danielle, but really talking about the cooperative history, the cooperative introduction, and like Black feminist history. So we'll have that on the 19th and also talk about like community ownership. In your packets, there's like a cooperative gallery walk. So we'll go through that activity together just to talk about cooperatives that have existed in the past and in the present, and kind of just like draw on that knowledge. So these are tentative. We are reaching out to speakers, so things may shift, but we'll let you know. But for session 3, we always talk about rethinking capitalism, especially in this cooperative work. What does that mean? We talk about solidarity economies, and so that's what we'll be doing for session 3. And then we also have Black study sessions, which were new as of last year, where those are open to community members. So if you have advisory members or other cooperative group folks that can't make it on Saturday, we have the space on Wednesdays from 5 to 7 to kind of draw upon the learnings of North Star. So for our first study session in December, we'll be talking more about solidarity economies. We'll be talking about Kwanzaa and the African origins of cooperatives. So just drawing more on that history and that grounding. We'll have some time for a break, and then in January we'll come back and kind of start digging into this technical space where we'll be talking about cooperative structures and ownership structures. We'll have a Black study session in February highlighting Black History Month to talk about Black cooperatives and the legacy of wealth building. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to check the chat too. We'll talk about the legacy of Black wealth, and hoping to invite some speakers to come be in that space with us. We'll move into talking about the history, Minnesota history, so history about this work and current cooperative models. And we'll close out Black History Month with having a virtual housing cooperative tour. In the past, we were able to do this in person, but since we're virtual and we're engaging with folks from different spaces too, this will be virtual. And in this way, we can also invite co-ops that are not just in Minnesota, but Black cooperatives nationally to be in the space. So that's the time for you to really engage with the speakers, ask questions. It was one of the favorite sessions from last year, just because we got to engage with some really cool work, and people were able to talk about the work, the highs, the lows, all of it, and just be open. We'll be talking about financing co-ops we've always done this with a shared capital cooperative, which is a cooperative lender. And we'll also be inviting our partners at Nexus, called the Shared Ownership Center. They do some cooperative work and some TA. So we'll be diving into some of that. We'll have a space to talk about cooperative governance and bylaws and what that may look like. And then our final formal session We'll be talking about democratic decision making and conflict resolution, as well as community engagement as you continue to engage either current co-op members, future co-op members, advisory committees on what this work will look like. We'll have a final Black Study session in May where after all this work will just be a chill and creative space. Hoping to have some creatives and community join us to kind of lead us in a body prayer and just kind of center ourselves after all this work. And then we'll have our cooperative presentations and then graduation. So that's kind of like what we have laid out for you this year. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can see everyone's faces. If you have any questions. So yeah, that's what we have laid out for you for this year, which is really exciting. We will always take lead from you. So if there's a session that comes up and you want more information on that, I'm happy to follow up. If I don't have the information, if Liana and I don't have the information, we will direct you to someone who does. If there's something that you want to know more about, I don't know, like business planning, we could talk about that too. I'm hoping to get into that with like the Shared Ownership Center. So yeah, this is just like really a cooperative 101 space, which is really rooted in the values of North Star. It's really rooted in Blackness. I hope that is reflected throughout the fellowship, like all things Black, rooting for everyone Black. So that's kind of like what we want to lead with and really center. And yeah, if we don't have it, we will direct you to someone who does. But also recognizing that you all bring so much wealth, so much knowledge into this space. So please never feel like we're just teaching things or our facilitators are just teaching things. You're also holding the space to teach and share your wisdom. So please know that the space is for that too. Are there any questions or anything before we take a break? No? Okay. Well, if you do have some, feel free to email, you can chat, whichever you'd like. So we're going to take a break before Auntie Beverly. She'll be here at 11:15. So yeah, I'll play some music, but just take some time, get some more coffee if that's what you want, some more tea, juice. It's sunny in Minneapolis. If you need to step outside, I don't know if it's cold or not. So if you need to step outside to catch some vitamin D, I am not sure what the weather is in Georgia and Vegas, but I hope it's sunny too. So if you need to do that, please take care of yourself, and we'll come back to the space at 11:15. Okay. Yeah, we have someone incredible joining us in the space. I'm so happy because I know that Auntie Beverly has been joining us for North Star for sure since I started with North Star in cohort 3, but well before that too. And this just has been such a beautiful tradition for us. But I'm just gonna say a quick little introduction and then just give the space over to Auntie Beverly. But Beverly Cotman, also known as Auntie Beverly, is a storyteller that believes in and values the inherent ability of every person to be creative and to experience joy in their creation. As a storytelling teaching artist, she shares her love of all for the oral tradition by presenting activities and experiences that are engaging, affirming, and supportive. To introduce the oral tradition, Auntie Beverly performs a traditional or cultural story. During the story, she uses voice dynamics, facial expressions, gestures, movements, and enthusiasm to demonstrate performance techniques. There is a short response discussion about what is seen and heard. Auntie Beverly has 30 years of experience as an educator. She has presented workshops and residencies for participants at elementary schools, high schools, colleges, conventions, senior centers, and business meetings. She is a member and a workshop presenter with Black Storytellers Alliance, Story Arts of Minnesota, National Storytellers Network, and National Association of Black Storytellers. She has incredible amounts of experience, and we're so excited to have her in this space. So without further ado, I just want to introduce Auntie Beverly and give that space over to you.
Oh, there we are. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, just give me a wave. And for those of you who are with us, if you if it's okay with you, would you please let me see your faces? Well, okay, that's all right if you don't want to. It's just it's wonderful. Oh, yes. Oh, wonderful. It's actually wonderful to look at the people that I am sharing stories with, because we are not in person. And the oral tradition is that back and forth, that communication that occurs between and among people. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for inviting me again. I love doing this. I love doing this. So I'm Auntie Beverly. I'm a storyteller. And I looked over your vision statements, trying to find what would be a good topic. And so I read things like the practice of cultural arts, ways of knowing and caring for each other in community, a place of respite, a place for finding community and love. Only together will we be able to survive and thrive. Properties and land ownership to give us leadership in our communities, taking care of the stewardship of the land, and the fabric of life that continues this legacy. So I thought, there must be some stories. And so I have selected 2 to share with you, and then we can, after the stories are over, then we can talk a little bit about the stories and how they answer and give another dimension to the goals that you have set for yourself in this journey. So the first story is called Sungura and Leopard. Now it is a Swahili trickster tale. And some of you probably know that a trickster is a character that for the most part is good-natured, but is always trying to maybe get something for nothing. And in the Swahili sort of culture, the people in East Africa who speak Swahili language, they think that Sungura is a little rabbit, and she manages to get things over on much larger, much fiercer adversaries. So this story is about how letting people know that as ordinary people that we are, we don't have to be bigger or stronger than those who oppress us or try to keep us down. We just have to be smarter. And so that's what this story is about. And the other thing about this story is the energy, the knowledge, the challenge, the support that we get from ancestors and elders, those who have come before us and have gone through all kinds of things, some things that we probably can't even imagine. But they have taught us lessons, especially through some of these stories, on how to survive, how to get over, how to get across. Again, how to overcome in a smarter way than those who may be bigger or stronger or more powerful. So this is about Sungura, who is a rabbit, and Osibo the leopard. Now they live in the savannah, and the leopard has roamed all over the bush all the time. And if the weather is bad or is not feeling so good, he finds a burrow that someone has already made, and stays there. But then he comes to the point, he says, well, I think I need to have my own home. I need to have my own place where the rain doesn't fall on me. And so he looks all over the savannah, finds a place, and he finds this little hill. It's kind of just a little rise. And he says, this is going to be the best place. I can see all around in all directions, and I can see when little animals are around. I know exactly where to go get them. Think I'll just go get myself a bundle of sticks and start to build my house. Now, at the same time, Sangura, who's the little tiny rabbit or hare, also lives in the bush. And he just kind of decided at the same time as Leopard that he wanted to do the same thing. I need a real house, he thought. I had enough of living out here in the bush without a roof over my ears. I need a place to kind of call my own, start my family. Yes, I need to start my family. And he too comes to this sort of little rise in the land. It's a little hill, and he says, this is the perfect spot. This is the perfect spot. I can see all around. I can see all around. And that way, if any predators after me, well then, I can see them. So he says, all right, I'll get ready. So he goes off to get some sticks to begin to build his house. Well, while he's gone, Leopard comes back and says, oh, here's another pile of sticks. Where did these sticks come from? Unbeknownst that Rabbit has already brought some sticks, and he says, wow, the ancestors must really think that I have made a good choice here. Not only have they given me a good place, but they're helping me build my house. Now he goes away to get some mud, and Sangura comes back, and now there's 3 bundles of sticks, and he's going, wow, maybe I miscounted or something. But then he says, oh no, it must be the ancestors. They approve of me picking this spot, and they're helping me build my home. So they go on like that all day long, building this house in the very self-same place, but they never see each other. And because it's going so quickly, they have decided, both of them have decided, that the ancestors, they approve of this. They are helping us. So all day long, they go with the sticks and the mud and the painting on the outside and the thatch on the outside. It's wonderful. And they have worked all day long, and now it's dark. The house is finished. They are tired, and so what they do is each of them creep inside the house. Sangura on one side, Osibo the leopard on the other side. And they sleep peacefully all night long because they have worked hard all day. Well, you know what happens when they wake up in the morning. They are very surprised to see one another. Sangura says, Leopard, what are you doing in my house? Get out of my house. What are you thinking? And Leopard says, Sangura, you little rabbit, what are you doing in my house? I built this house with the help of my ancestors. You are the one who has to leave. Sangura said, no, it's not your house. It's my house. The ancestors helped me build it. It would not have been here if the ancestors hadn't. Well, they fussed and they fumed. And finally, they did have to admit that the house was big. And since the ancestors had helped them build it, they would just have to share it. So what did they do? Well, they built a little wall between the middle, right down the middle of the house. And everything was fine for a while. But after a while, I remember I told you why Sangura wanted a home in the first place. And so now Sangura and his wife, they have a whole lot of little baby rabbits. And they're still kind of happy. Now they're little, hesitant about, this leopard living right next on the other side of the wall, but it's okay. And then the leopard is saying, okay, now I built this house with the help of my ancestors. I wanted some peace and quiet. And now I've got all of these rabbits living next door. And they look mighty tasty. So one morning, Leopard woke up and he could hear Sangura's children, and they are just, they're crying, they're whining, they're playing. He says, why can't they stop all that crying? And then Sangura's wife says very loudly, she says, oh, Sangura, our children are crying and they're crying and crying because they are so hungry, and all of that elephant meat from that elephant you killed last week is all gone, and they are hungry. Now, the leopard hears this. He says, elephant meat? Wait a minute. Those greedy children. Elephant meat? Sangura the rabbit? So leopard's kind of going, okay, let me see about this. But nothing more happened. And then after a while, he said, well, leopard said, well, Sangura's just a little rabbit. He couldn't hunt elephants. No. So things go on for a while. Well, then after a while, a couple more days or so, the rabbits are crying again. Oh, we are so hungry. We're so hungry. Oh, mama, daddy, please, could you get us some leopard meat? Now, leopard hears this and says, wait a minute. Now, first he hunted an elephant, and now he's going to hunt a leopard. Well, leopard was shaken so he was afraid his spots would fall off. What a neighbor. If Sangura could kill elephants, he could certainly make short work of a leopard. There was no time to lose. Slinking out of the house, leopard scrambled away. Whew, safe. I am safe. Oh my goodness. And safe, said the little Sangura and his family, because they watched leopard skitter away, and they said, we are safe. The leopard is gone. Well, Sangura picked up a hoe and went on back to gardening and working. And then he says, I think I'll take this wall down between us. And he starts to beat at the wall that was between them. But he looks out the door, and here comes the leopard again in the company of Baboon. Now, Baboon is talking to leopard, and he's saying pretty loudly, really, leopard, that Sangura can trick anybody. How could you believe that a small animal like him would try to attack you? The leopard still didn't seem so sure, but they were coming closer and closer. So now Sangura's wife said, okay, we've got to have a plan. So as Leopard comes back into his side of the house, Sungura's wife says, she says, oh, well, my dear, Leopard should be back soon. Oh, how clever of you to send Baboon to trick him into coming back. Don't cry, my children, don't you cry. You'll soon have leopard meat after all. But the children were not crying. Oh no, they were not crying. They were laughing. They were laughing, and they peered out the door and they saw that Leopard was skittering away, disappearing into the bush. And do you know what? He has never come back since. If you step on a pin, that pin bends, and that's the way that story ends. So you don't have to be strong and fierce. You just have to be smart. Now, on another note, if you have in fact built a wonderful house, and you have, maybe you don't have a family yet, but you do have a partner, and you all are getting along really well. So this next story is called The Roof of Leaves. And it's a tale about anger and forgiveness. And it's a tale that teaches us, it's from the Congo area of the continent, and it teaches us that words and behaviors carried out in fits of rage and anger can destroy hopes, dreams, and futures. So once there was a man and a woman, and they loved one another so very much. And everybody in the village knew that they did. And so finally, they decided that they would get married. And everyone in the village decided to celebrate them by building them a house, making a home for this lovely couple that had loved one another for so long. And the two of them moved into this lovely, lovely house with its thatched roof of green leaves. And after a while, they lived really great for a long time. But one day, from that lovely house came words of anger and rage. Both of them were in a very bad mood. The two of them were so angry at one another that they forgot many things. Now, in the midst of anger, what did they forget? They forgot how loving they had been to one another. They forgot that they had spent a lifetime together. They forgot all of the happy things for whatever it was. They were so angry. They were shouting. They used, harsh words, and everybody could hear it. And once they got to the point where that husband was so angry, he stormed out of the house. And in this fit of rage, he wanted to pull or throw or any, and the closest thing to him were the green leaves on the thatch of his roof. And he began to pull those leaves off and throw them to the ground and pull those leaves off. He was so mad, and he forgot that in their culture, if either a husband or wife pulls the leaves off of the roof of their home, it means that they want a divorce, that we will never live together beneath the same roof. He forgot that. And he's pulling those leaves like crazy. And he's throwing them and he is so mad. He's forgotten the joy that they had in their home together. And he is, oh, and his wife comes out and she looks and she notices what he's doing, but she also notices that the people of the village are watching. And she says, oh, if I say something, then they'll think that I'm to blame for this argument. I won't say anything unless my husband says something first. Now the husband is pulling the leaves and he's cursing under his breath. And now, after a while, his anger is starting leaving him. In fact, he can't even remember why they were so mad. But just as he was about to stop pulling the leaves, he saw his wife and he saw all the villagers watching him. And he says to himself, if I stop pulling the leaves, everyone will think this argument was my fault. Well, I won't stop until my wife says something. So the people of the village looked from the husband to the wife. They were astonished. They knew that these two had loved one another for a long time. All the neighbors wanted to say something, but it's not a good idea to come between a man and his wife. So they stood silent. The wife watched the husband. The husband pulled leaves off. The neighbors looked around. Oh dear. And suddenly the wife says, husband, these are the only leaves that are dirty. You can leave the rest of them up there. And the husband looked at his wife kind of confused and said, and he said, what? And she said, oh, these leaves that you've already taken down, they're the only ones dirty. You don't have to pull any more off. Let's take these down to the river and wash them. So without waiting to see what he was going to do, she started to gather up the fallen leaves, and then he smiled and he picked up some fallen leaves and he followed her down to the river, and down they went to the river, and they washed them all in the water. They laid them out to dry with the sun, and then they even went swimming, and afterwards they collected the leaves and replaced them on the roof together. And on that day, every wife went to her husband and mentioned something about the dirty leaves at the top of the roof, and maybe we ought to take them down and wash them in the river. And and everybody thought, yeah, that was a good thing to do. So that never happened again. And to this day, in that little village, whenever there is any disagreement in a home, they take some leaves from the river. They go together they take the leaves from the roof. They go together down to the river and they wash the leaves. And as they're washing the leaves, maybe they talk about what caused the disagreement in the first place, or they solved the problem, whatever it was. So if you step on a pen, that pen bends, and that's the way that story ends. A story from the Congo, The Roof of Leaves. So there you have two sort of folktale, fable stories about building a home and keeping peace in the home. What do you have to overcome in order to reach your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations? When is a time when you have to be smarter than someone who is opposing you? And then once you get what you think was your goal, you've got it, how do you keep it? What ways do you develop that will help you solve problems, find peace, get along, listen to the other person, listen to the other side of a story, get a different perspective. So I am very much interested in your responses to the stories and what you think is the lesson in the stories. Anybody, you don't have to raise your hand or anything. You can just unmute yourself and begin to speak, but not all at the same time. Okay. Do I have to call on you? No.
I can
Okay. All right. Oh, Olivia.
With that last story, Roof of Leaves, I'm
Mhm.
thinking about how you maintain a relationship, like what kind of maintenance you do, and that they were able to like sort of change this argument structure into like a maintenance structure by washing the leaves. It's really like taking care of your home.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about like how you help yourself remember the love throughout, so that that maintenance isn't so like negative or combative.
Okay. Thank you. Someone else got a comment. I got
To piggyback off that, they kind of took like a reactionary state of mind and turn it into a culture of like responding to not even necessarily responding, but like anticipating and like initiating ways of integrating that maintenance and care into practice.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? How about Cooley, can you monitor the chat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. From story one, this is from Tennille. She says, I learned what it means to cultivate belonging and to make room for the needs of all involved. From story two, I learned that sometimes in prioritizing negative emotions, we remove protection from everyone. I love these stories for what they teach us about cooperation, place, and relationship. Thank you.
That cooperation, just think of any time that you have been just really angry, and when you think back on it, how how unreasonable at the moment, my response was, just inappropriate, bad language, bad behavior, and the only thing that's driving that is anger, and not even thinking about what could be destroyed in the midst of anger. Anyone else got a comment or a question?
I think for story two, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about conflict. Just, we always feel like we talk about it at the organization too, but also with loved ones, and how like it's so easy to, when we're in conflict, to forget about why there's love and care. And so in that moment where everyone was taking the leaves to the river to wash them, it's just like tending to that care, like kind of going back to figuring out why we care for each other, why we love each other. So yes, like the tending to those relationships, and a reminder of all the beauty that exists in it.
Yeah. Anyone else? Someone else is.
I think something that the stories brought to me was a reflection on ritual and the ways in which we can bring ritual in, and really collective wisdom and ancestral wisdom into the ways in which we find conflict with each other. and the ways in which we resolve it.
Yes.
I think ritual can lend itself to culture. And in this last story, I was thinking about the ways in which just one couple or family or partnership changing the ways in which they engaged with their environment and with each other and with conflict and with someone said in the chat, intimacy building, it was able to cause a ripple effect out into the entire village and into their surrounding family. And that was really, that resonated.
Go ahead, Trey.
Yeah. Yes. You mentioned ritual and how important and significant they are. And with a lot of rituals, cultural rituals especially, we don't have a way of knowing why or how they got started. But I think the wonderful thing about them is that they continue, and we can see the benefit of the ritual, even if we don't know why we do it. So in this particular story, in this particular village, generations down the line, they're taking roof leaves and going down to the river, and all of the healing that takes place in that ritual, even though they may not know the story of this first couple, that looked around and saw, okay, what can we do to solve this? Someone else has got a comment, a question. Anyone? Well, one of the things that when I was thinking about, especially the second story, is that nowadays, well, here lately, there's been a lot of talk about Black joy. And I think we've always been a joyful people. But I don't think we didn't seem to talk about it much. But now we're talking about, Black joy, and where is it, and how do we find it, and how do we get it back, and all of that. And I think some of that is found in the rituals, but some of that is also as a result of reflecting. And as we reflect and think back, yes, there have been hardships. Yes, there have been oppression. I mean, it's been awful. I mean, any of the things that have happened to Black people living, all over the world, but it's living here in America, they're terrible, horrible things. But I think we're at a time now where, as we start to address some of that, again, the buzzword nowadays is trauma. As we start to address that trauma, we don't have to relive the trauma, but we can also celebrate how we overcame it. How, what was it that brought us through? And for some, for example, in the first story, Sangora and Leopard, we rely on the lessons we have learned from those who went before us. And we also remember and look back in gratitude, because we know that we would not exist in this moment, in this time, if they had not survived. So even if when you really think about that, what would be if someone who didn't survive did survive? and moved forward generation after generation after generation. And that for me becomes a moment of Black joy. I am grateful, but I am also joyful that whatever it was they needed to survive, to persevere, they had it, they got it. And because of that, I can talk to you, I can tell stories, I can live my life. And so that joy is what can be celebrated. And it doesn't mean that we ignore, the fact that there were hardships and those were terrible, terrible things. But we can revel and celebrate in that joy. Someone else got a comment, question? Complaint? The story that I didn't tell you, and I'll just tell you, that my soul looks back and wonder, yep. The story that I didn't tell you was one about a village that disappeared. And this one is, this is a very interesting story. And I'll just tell you the gist of it. The gist of it is that during the time of slavery, which is not really a time because there's been slavery in many, many forms all over the world forever, I guess, ever since there were human beings. But anyway, on the continent, there were African slavers who sold people, especially people that they had conflict with. So if one group of people decided they were going to war against another village, and they'd go in and they'd destroy that village, and they'd capture people and they'd bring them back and make them work. And then when the colonizers came, here was another way they could go out and do whatever it is they wanted. They captured people, and the colonizers would give them guns or money or liquor or whatever, and they would sell them. So and after a while, that scenario went through the land and people knew. So in this one particular village, they heard that slavers were going around conquering villages, and they decided that they wanted to save their group, save their home. And so what they decided to do was to make their village disappear. So they did. They dismantled all of the houses. They raked over all of the land. They took down everything, and they tried their best to make the place look as if the village had never been there. Except there was one very, very elderly woman who said she was too old, she was too slow. She said there was no way that she could go. And so what she wanted to do was for them to leave her little house, and she would just stay there. She had a little vegetable plot, and she would just stay there. And that when the slavers did come, she would tell them that she had just been living here all alone with her little plot of vegetables, and that she was a sorcerer, that she was a conjure woman, and that she could cast spells, and that was made her vegetables grow, and that was how she managed to trap animals. And certainly, and she said, and so when they did show up, that's what she told them. And she said, look around, there's nobody here. And they did. They looked around and they said, well, this is terrible. We're not going to get anybody. And they went on. And unbeknownst to them, that the villagers had dismantled the village, had gone to the river, and through some magic or eventually finding a place that was shallow enough that had stones, and they crossed the river to the other side into the deep forest, and there they established their new village. And the old woman remained in the old village and basically tricked the slavers and said that there's no village here. And so that group of people who had established a home had to move their home, but they did it. They moved it intact and kept their home way deep in the other side of the forest. So that that ingenuity, that coming up with answers to problems, trusting in the ancestral knowledge that we all have. But maybe you have to be still, you have to be quiet, you have to sit and think, what knowledge do I have already to solve this problem? What knowledge do I already have that gives me the strength, the stamina, the grit to work through whatever is going on, to establish my home, my neighborhood, my community, and move my people forward into peace and prosperity for all of us. And I think once when we think of it and think back, we realize, yes, we have everything we need. We have everything we need. We just have to make it, we have to bring it up. We've got to bring it out. We've got everything we need. So again, this has been a wonderful experience. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for asking me. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to the stories. Take the lessons in those stories and be well and spread love.
And thank you so much to you, Auntie Beverly.
You're welcome.
It's always so beautiful, wonderful to have you in this space. So I'm grateful that we were able to get some time with you today.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. You all have a great rest of the day.
Cool.
Just have a great rest of the day. Have a wonderful life. And I'll see you again.
All right. Peace. We'll see you soon. All right, everyone. Thank you. That was incredible. It's always one of my favorite parts of North Star. It's incredible, the power of stories and the power of storytelling and the lessons in there. And I think what I heard from Auntie Beverly, I feel like is echoed also by what Danielle said this morning, of just like calling on those that came before us, and also just recognizing the power of the knowledge and wisdom that is also held in the space. I think as Auntie Beverly was closing out with that last story, I was just thinking of like all the incredible work that you've all been doing and are doing in this cohort. And yeah, just like the dreams for liberation that kind of show up in these different ways, in these beautiful ways, and hopes that yeah, we can just kind of build something better, freer, and more beautiful for those that came before, for us, and for the generations to come. So I think that's what's resonating in my head right now. So we did finish story time a little early. So what I'm gonna do is we're still gonna have our lunch break at 12:15 to 12:45. I'm just gonna move group agreements to be now, so that later we either have more times for the groups to meet or we can end early. which I mean, it's a Saturday, so it's always nice to end early. So I will pulling up the slides right now. Okay. So we always have group agreements in this space just to acknowledge of like how we want to be in space together. And so I also just want to name that while we have these group agreements, they've always changed in the space. So if you have something to offer, please feel free to like either unmute and say it or put it in the chat. And then there'll be an edited version of the group agreements that will then live on for our cohort. So this is just a base for us to start. If there's something that you don't like or don't agree with, we can talk about that and see how we can make it work, because this is, like I said, something that we want to keep thinking of or holding for our time together. So these group agreements are actually from a group called Compass Point. They do some training. They're located out in California. In the past, we've used Adrienne Marie Brown's group agreements from Emergent Strategy. So always evolving, but yeah. So the first one is to take the learning and leave the story. Just recognizing that there might be some things that are shared in the space that we want to stay in the space, but for sure, but taking the lessons from that to continue on in your work and whatever you do. We have Say It Ugly, which is become one of my favorites recently. But like, we live in a world that asks for perfectionism, where white supremacy demands perfectionism. And in this space, I invite you to say it ugly. Like, if you're processing through it and you're trying to find the words, say it. Just invite the imperfection in the space, invite the fumbling in the space. So yeah, say it ugly. Create space and make space. Just recognizing that if you are one person who talks a lot, creating space for folks that maybe don't talk a lot, or if you are a person that maybe doesn't talk a lot, making space and stepping up, or moving in to have the space to also have whatever you're thinking or feeling be held in the space too. We have practice both and thinking. Just recognizing that multiple things can be true at the same time. So holding that. Speaking from your own experience, using I statements. Yeah, speak from your own experience, speak your own truth. Be okay with fumbling, back to like saying it ugly. So be okay with process, but also recognizing impact and intent and what those may lead to. And then the last one is be your own boo. Like, take care of yourself. If you need to step off, close your camera or whatever, like whatever you need to do, please take care of yourself in this space. If you don't feel great and don't want to be listening to or be on Zoom, then take that space to take care of yourself. If you need to move around, take a breath, have some coffee, have some tea or water, just take care of yourself, but also make sure that you're taking care of the folks in the group too. I'm gonna stop sharing and ask if there's anything else that folks want to add or adjust in these group agreements. And I'll put them in the chat.
I think a group agreement that I got exposed to recently that I really enjoy is it's a discussion, not a debate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a discussion, not a debate. Okay, adding that in the chat so that I can also add it to the group agreements as we edit them. Thank you for offering that, Lane. Are there any other offerings in the space? Any adjustments? If there are none now and you're a person that needs time to process, you're more than welcome to email or chat those later too. I'm happy to make those changes. But yeah, that's all I have for right now. So we're gonna take another break. We'll be back at 12:45, which will be going into some group mingling for some cooperative stuff. And then we'll be looking forward towards closing the session after that. So yeah, back at 12:45, I'll put some music on and pause the recording, and we'll see you back then. All right, everyone. I hope that was enough time for you to get whatever you need to take care of yourself in that space. I know we've taken lots of breaks, but I just want to kind of like build in like a culture of care in this space. There'll be for sure days when we have heavier content, so just want to make sure that there's that time that's already been practiced from the first session where we just take some time to take care. But if you're back, may you please give a little reaction of some sort. Cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. So this is the portion. Today is really about grounding and getting to know each other. So we'll have about 30 minutes to kind of do some group breakouts where you can all talk, get to know each other, see who's in the room, see each other and the work that you're doing. And I will put the prompts in the chat. There is no like structured prompt, but for sure sharing names, pronouns, communities you represent, your work that you're doing, and sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. You represent doing. And just sharing more about like the projects that brought you or the work that brought you into the space. So there'll be 10 minutes per rotation. We'll have, since we are an uneven group, we have 5 groups today, so we will have one group of 3 consistently. And at some points, you may be in a room with another group that you were in the room with, maybe someone new. So just like allowing for some of that flexibility. So 10 minutes, please connect, talk. You're more than welcome to come back to the main room if you're done, or if you want to hang out there. You could talk about the work. If you don't have any more words for the work, you could talk about music, food, whatever. I just want you all to be able to connect, since we're not seeing each other in person and we don't have those natural ways that we can just like approach each other. So this is our virtual way we can approach each other. I've already broken out into groups, and I'm going to, if I can find the breakout rooms right here. All right, I'm going to be opening the rooms right now. All right, me. Cool. Hi everyone, welcome back. All right, welcome back. Oh my gosh, hi. Hello. Oh my gosh, that hair is gorge. All right, everyone. So this was our first time doing Zoom breakout rooms for like each group instead of like random breakout rooms. So I'm sorry if it was a little clunky, if conversations got cut off. We'll get better with practice as we go along the fellowship, but just wanted to have some time for y'all to meet. So I hope there were some good conversations, and I hope it wasn't too chaotic as we were like shuffling people back and forth, but yeah. All right, so thank you for bearing with us. I'm gonna pass it on for the remainder of our time to my co-facilitator and the person that is co-holding the space, Liana.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, so we're about to close, do a checkout, and just kind of reflect on our time. So I wanted to just offer a checkout of just like a one word phrase. If you have a movement, sound, anything, just to kind of reflect on what we've done today. So we've had story time with Auntie Beverly. We've gotten to meet each other a little bit deeper, but just wanting to kind of lean into that ritual, right? How would we want to be together? How do we want to hold space and share space? So whoever would like to start, I don't have to. So just want to open that up to whoever wants to start with our checkout.
I'm leaving this space feeling enamored.
I'm leaving the space feeling excited.
I'm leaving the space feeling energized and inspired.
I'm leaving the space feeling welcome.
Takes me time.
Oops. Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, Mujahid, could you repeat what you said? I think we may
Oh, I thought I heard someone else too. I was just it takes me time to process stuff, so I really can't say, but I am thankful for these watercolors.
Nice.
I am leaving this space feeling empowered.
See some things in the chat from Mari. I'm feeling connected and supported and inspired. From Tennille, I'm leaving the space feeling ready. Sarita, I'm leaving the space feeling grounded. Nicole, yes, shout out to Elder Amake for the watercolors. Yes, Ashe. From Cal, abundant, connected, excited, exclamation points.
I am leaving the space feeling invited.
Grateful.
I am leaving the space feeling culture.
I'm leaving the space feeling also excited.
I'm leaving the space feeling grateful that I get to share my Saturdays with all of you. It is a blessing.
Anyone else? I don't know if we heard from Kita. We have missed.
Keita is not available right now.
Okay, yeah, no
Our
problem.
house is getting ill. And one
Okay,
of us had to step out and tend to the children. So
no problem. Yes. Thank you for letting us know. And Tennille, grateful and welcome also come to mind. And I see how, I don't know your name, but I feel like you want to share something. So I would love to hear from who's next to Mari. Yeah. Hi.
My name is Nayla.
Nice to meet you. And how are you feeling right now?
Good.
Thank you. Yes, the braids are on point. I feel it.
Thank her. Me and my friend are about to doom her parents to dance forever and ever eternity. We have to add water, soap, vinegar, and baking soda, which I think is going to make an explosion, but I'm risking it.
Love it. Love the young energy in the room. Yes. Shout out to the babies. Yes.
The youth are the truth.
Yes, they are. They remind us. I felt like I was a child again, listening to the stories. I feel like that youthful energy just brought that in. So yes, thank you.
She's been writing a spell book, so look out, world.
Okay. All right, thank you everyone for sharing. Before we close, I did want to kind of say, like, as a mantra together, the proverb on our notebooks that we gave. And if you don't have your notebook in front of you, that's okay. I can put it in the chat. But I just felt like, I don't know, it just feels like a very powerful, it feels like a mantra, something that we can kind of come back to remind us, why we do this work, why we're invested. So I just wanted to offer that as like a closing for us to like say it collectively, just as a reminder. So this is the proverb by Gwendolyn Brooks. I'll put it into the chat if you don't have your notebook handy, and we'll just collectively share these words together and close out. So I will just kind of call us together. Ja, Li, Tu, Nay. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. Ashe. Thank you everyone for holding space with us this morning, early afternoon. We do have a short little survey for you all to fill out. We just want to hear from you. So I'll put it into the chat, but we'll also send it out in a follow-up email with the recording if you don't want to do that just now, but just so we can hear from you and make this time, relevant and fit your needs. So here's that survey. But again, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take some time. Is that phrase said in all the cohorts? I'm looking to the Cooley for that.
It started in cohort 3. Duaba helped design the glyph for us. He was a fellow, and we had it for graduation, and then we've just had it ever since then. So yeah, it was born out of cohort 3, and it'll live on.
Yeah, I asked that because we have these words we said in the rites of passage program I took, and it's our pledge. It's like a cohort pledge. Like we commit to that every time we come into a space. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording, but yeah, everyone, you're free to move about your day, whatever else you need to do, and we'll see you again on the 19th for a session that Danielle will be facilitating. So yeah, it was wonderful having you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you. I see all your work, and I'm grateful for all of you. So cool.
Take care.